Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Anisha, Department of Physiology. From Department of Physiology, today's topic is immunological tolerance, autoimmunity, and AIDS. Before starting off the lecture, I would like to give you a brief about immunity. Now, those of you who know about immunity, basics about immunity, well and good. Who doesn't know, I will tell you in brief about immunity. Now, immunity is nothing but the resistance of the body or a protective response of the body against a pathogen, antigen, basically an antigen. It is a protective response of the body for against the antigen or any foreign body that invades our body. Okay, then comes the types of immunity. There exists two types of immunity, that is innate and the acquired immunity. Now, innate immunity is the immunity which is inborn, present in our body. Now, that doesn't come from anywhere, it is present in our body from starting. So that is innate immunity, which is inborn, present in our body. Then comes this was the innate immunity. Now, how does innate immunity work? I'll tell you just in basic. It has various mechanisms which work for innate immunity. Now, those are mechanisms. First one is the mechanical barrier, then comes the secretions, and the third one is the cellular response. Now, we'll see one by one. The first one is the mechanical barrier, that is our skin or the mucosa of the body, that comes in the mechanical barrier of the innate immunity. Okay, so those protect our body. Then comes the secretions. Now, what are the secretions that serve for innate immunity? Those are our tears, gastric acid secretion, or the so these are the tears consist of lysozyme which kills the microbes, and also our saliva, it also kills the microbes, and the gastric acid which hydrolyze the invading microbes in our body. So these are the types of secretions that protect our body. So these also come in innate immunity. So these are the components of innate immunity. Now, third one is the cellular response. Now, some cells also will take part in the innate immunity. Now, those will also protect our body, like secretions and mechanical barrier. So those are phagocytes. Now, phagocytes are like monocytes, macrophages. So these are the phagocytes which engulf the foreign body. मतलब कि वो ले लेंगे अपने अंदर. It will phagocytose it, it will engulf it, and then it will kill the antigen. Next is the natural killer cells. Those are also a cell, or those are also the cells of our innate immunity. Okay, so this was all about innate immunity. Now, coming off to the acquired immunity. Acquired immunity has two components. One is the cell mediated component, and the other one is the humoral response. So cell mediated response and the humoral response. Now, these two responses are mediated by different cells. So these two responses will be mediated by different cells. Like, for example, the cell mediated response will be mediated by our T cells. Okay, those are two types, helper T cells and the killer cells. Then comes the humoral response. Humoral response will be mediated by B cells. Humoral response will be mediated by B cells, and cell mediated response will be mediated by T cells. Remember this. Now, acquired immunity is further classified into active and passive immunity. Now, active immunity is also of natural and artificial type, and passive immunity is also of natural and artificial type. Now, now the natural active immunity, which comes in the active immunity. Yes, so in the natural active immunity, what you will see, for example, if in the childhood I suffered from poliomyelitis or chicken pox, if a polio virus has infected my body, so my body will have its antibody generated in it. So when the infection has occurred, the body will make the antibodies against the virus, and it will be stored in the body even after the elimination of the disease. Okay, so my body will have those antibodies, because if in further future the virus again infects my body, the cells will come to the rescue and they will attack the virus. So for that purpose, the antibodies are present even after the infection has eliminated or gone, or when you have even recovered. So that is natural active immunity. Now what is artificial active immunity? Artificial active immunity is nothing but our vaccines that we take in the childhood. Those are BCG, DPT, toxoid, tetanus, all those, the natural, the live attenuated and the killed vaccines, all those come in the um, artificial active immunity. Then comes the passive immunity. Now passive immunity is also divided into natural passive immunity and the artificial passive immunity. Now what comes under the natural natural passive immunity? So for example, if a woman is pregnant, so the antibodies in the mother will be transferred to her fetus through placenta. So this is the passive immunity that a mother gives to her fetus at the time of pregnancy. So the basic antibody that is transferred from mother to fetus during pregnancy through placenta is IgG antibody. It crosses placenta and goes to the fetus. The second example of natural passive immunity is when a baby is on the breast milk. Now as we know that in the first 6 months of the life, we have to only breastfed the baby, and the breast milk is known as the colostrum. Now colostrum is very rich in the antibody IgA, so this will transfer this antibody from breast milk to the infant. So mother will transfer IgA antibody from breast milk to her infant. Okay, so this is how natural passive immunity works. Then comes the artificial passive immunity. What comes in it? If I give antibodies artificially through injections, now like IV, if I'm giving injections from in the form, and if I'm giving antibodies in the form of injections, so that comes under artificial passive immunity. So these are basic things about immunity. Now coming off to our topic today. Now first I will be telling you about immunological tolerance, then we'll do autoimmunity, and then at the end we'll do about AIDS. Okay, now what is immunological tolerance? Immune tolerance or immunological tolerance is a state of unresponsiveness of the immune system to the substances or an antigen that have a capacity to elicit an immune response in a given organism. Now, immunological tolerance is nothing but the unresponsiveness. It means the immune system becomes inactive, unresponsive, and it doesn't protect our body. It no more protects our body. So that is immunological tolerance. So it is nothing but unresponsiveness, inactiveness of the immune system against a particular antigen. It is of two types, natural and acquired. We'll see one by one both. Natural tolerance, it refers to the unresponsiveness to a self antigen. Now what is a self antigen? During embryonic development, when immune system is immature, any antigen which comes in contact with immature immune system, it is recognized as self antigen, whether it is our own cell or a particular microbe that has invaded in our body during in us during embryonic development. It is considered as self antigen. Now, because the immune system is immature at the embryonic development, each and every substance is considered as self antigen to the body, so that the immune system does not attack the particular substance or the antigen. Therefore, it does not evoke any response in later life when body is exposed to the same antigen, because it was once considered as self antigen. So even in the later life, if the same antigen comes in your body, whether it is of outside, whether it is actually a foreign substance or a foreign antigen, it will not evoke any immune response, because at the time of embryonic development your body considered it as a self antigen and did not attack it. So your body will have a memory of it, and it will not attack that particular antigen uh, which once attacked your body. Okay, so at that time your immune system will become unresponsive. That is natural tolerance. Then comes the acquired tolerance. It refers to the unresponsiveness to a potential antigen. Now, potential antigen is actually an antigen which is harmful for your body, like a pathogen. Okay, it is a potential antigen which has actually the harmful properties to affect your body. It is also of two types, general and the specific. Now first is the general immunological tolerance, results due to impairment of immune system, hence there is a lack of responsiveness to the potential antigen. Now in certain conditions your immune system gets hampered, or your immune system stops working, or it is not working the way it should. So at that time, if your immune response is not working, the lack of responsiveness will cause the infection and will lead the potential antigen into your body. So that is general immunological tolerance. Then comes the specific immunological tolerance. It arises when a potential antigen induces a state of unresponsiveness to itself and not to other antigens. This happens when an antigen becomes tolerogen. Now, the specific immunological tolerance is it arises when a potential antigen, like I told you, a harmful antigen, a pathogen, induces a state of unresponsiveness. Now, and to itself, if for assume if two three types of antigens have come in your body, have invaded in your body, a पर्टिकुलर एंटीजन विल कॉज अनरिस्पॉन्सिवनेस फॉर इटसेल्फ, मतलब कि अगर वो एंटीजन आपके बॉडी में आ गया है और साथ में और भी एंटीजन है आपके बॉडी में, लेकिन वो एक पर्टिकुलर एंटीजन क्या करेगा, वो खुद के लिए अनरिस्पॉन्सिवनेस क्रिएट कर देगा. मतलब आपका इम्यून सिस्टम, योर इम्यून सिस्टम विल नॉट अटैक दैट पर्टिकुलर एंटीजन, बट इट विल अटैक ऑल द अदर एंटीजन्स. Remember, so it is, that's why known as specific immunological tolerance only to one antigen, not to the others. Your body will produce an immune response for the other antigen just like as it does, but the particular antigen will create an unresponsiveness for itself. Understood? So that antigen is known as tolerogen. The term is very important, tolerogen. In some instances, when an antigen is presented in a particular concentration, it might induce specific immunological tolerance or unresponsiveness. Now, if an antigen is presented in a certain amount, थोड़े एक पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट में ही वो आपके बॉडी में इन्वेड हो रहा है, ओनली देन इट विल कॉज द अनरिस्पॉन्सिवनेस और द टॉलरेंस टू योर बॉडी. बट इफ इट, अगर उसका कॉन्सेंट्रेशन थोड़ा भी इधर उधर हो गया, ज़्यादा हो गया, कम हो गया, सो it won't be able to create that that tolerance or that unresponsiveness to your immune system. So understood, an antigen presented in a certain amount or in a certain concentration, it might induce specific immunological tolerance or unresponsiveness, whereas when presented in some other concentration or some other amount, it might also promote the immunity. मतलब कि अगर वो दूसरे कॉन्सेंट्रेशन में आपके बॉडी में आया तो हो सकता है कि आपका इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स और बेटर हो, आपका इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स और अच्छे से आए, स्ट्रॉन्ग इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स मिले. सो दिस इज द डिफरेंस that the concentration has of the antigen. Okay, now therefore an antigen that induces tolerance is referred to as tolerogen. Like I told you, the antigen which creates the unresponsiveness of the immune system in a certain amount is known as tolerogen. Okay. Specific acquired tolerance has consequences for the host defenses. As we all know, this tolerance can cause consequences for the host defenses. The immunity will decrease. The person will be more susceptible for the infections and the diseases. So that is the consequence. Presence of tolerogenic epitopes on the pathogens compromise with ability of the body to respond to the infection. Then, mechanism of tolerance. Immunotolerance can arise by three possible mechanisms, that are clonal deletion, clonal anergy, and the suppression. Now, we'll see one by one. First is the clonal deletion. During embryonic life, clonal B and T cells are formed. Now, what are B and T cells? Like I told you, remember in the brief of immunity, that acquired immunity has two components, cell mediated and the humoral response. And the humoral response is mediated by B cells, and the cell mediated response is mediated by T cells. So these are the two cells that contribute in the acquired immunity in the with the help of these two cells. Okay. Now, these B and T cell possess receptors. So B and T cells are serve very important function in the immune system. So these eliminate the antigen from the body. So these are the protective cells in the body, immune cells of the body. These B and T cells possess receptors which recognize the antigens and are selectively deleted or eliminated, and therefore not available to respond on subsequent exposure to that antigens in later life. Now, B and T cells are having particular receptors on their cell surface. B cell will have B cell receptor, T cells will have T cells receptor. It is referred to as BCR, that is B cell receptors, and TCR are T cell receptors. So these receptors play a very important role in antigen binding. Antigen will come bind to that receptor and it will form an antigen antibody complex, and therefore it will hamper the functioning of the antigen, or it will interfere with the structure of the antigen, or it will eliminate the antigen from the body. So that's how B and T cells work, which recognize the antigen and are selectively deleted or eliminated, and therefore not available to respond on subsequent exposure to that antigens in our life, in later life. Now, what happens? These clones of B cells and T cells are deleted or eliminated in the later life. So what happens ki when these are deleted, for example, B cells and T cells which protected you in at the time of embryonic life or at a certain age, but later in the life those are eliminated or deleted, therefore they won't be available. वो आपको बाद में later life में protect नहीं कर पाएंगे उस antigen के लिए, because those are deleted or eliminated. Okay. Also, when the antigen comes and binds with these cells, B and T cells, so the body removes these complexes from the body. The immune system removes these complexes from the body, and that's why also these cells are deleted and eliminated from the body, because they are no longer required for the body, and they have become dysfunctional, or they serve later no purpose. When an antigen comes and binds with it and forms a complex, the body removes those cells. So that's why also it gets deleted or eliminated. That's why when the infection occurs later in the life, the B cells and the T cells, the clones of B cells and T cells, are not available to protect your body. Then, this was about clonal deletion. Now, clonal anergy. Clones of B and T cell receptors which recognize self antigen might remain but cannot be activated. This is referred to as clonal anergy. Now, clones of B and T cell receptors will recognize the self antigen and they will remain in this case they are not deleted, they are present, they will be there, but they won't be activated. If they are present in the body but are not activated, it is of no use for the self antigen and it won't be removed from the body, so they are of no use if not activated. So that is referred to as clonal energy. Then the suppression. Clones of B and T cells expressing receptors that recognize self antigen are preserved and capable for recognition of antigen when activated. Now, clones of B and T cells, like I told you in the last slide, will have receptors. Clones of B and T cells are present, they will have the receptor, they will recognize the self antigen, and they are preserved and capable of recognition of antigen when activated. However, but the end stage, the immune response might be inhibited through active suppression. Now, immune response can be inhibited by various reasons, that can be any medication, surgeries, or age. The immune response at that time might get suppressed, so that's why these cells won't be helpful, because your immune system is only your immune system has only hampered, so इसलिए that cells won't be of any use. Understood? B cells and T cells are present, they will recognize the self antigen, they will be capable of recognizing the self antigen, but the immune system itself is not working. So that's why, and that can be due to various reasons like medication, surgeries, age. So that's why suppression will also cause tolerance. Then comes the factors influencing induction of tolerance. Now these are the factors that influence induction of tolerance. Now these can influence it can influence it in a positive way, it can influence it in a negative way. A number of factors influence induction of immunological tolerance. These are species, competency of host, antigen, and age of host. Now, first, if species, immunological tolerance varies from species to species. For example, species like rabbits are rendered more rapidly as compared to guinea pigs and chickens. Now, in this, you will see that rabbits will develop tolerance very easily as compared to guinea pigs and chickens. So that is the difference you will see from species to species. If a species will develop a tolerance, if a particular species will develop a tolerance at a particular level, or if it will develop tolerance at very easily, it is not necessary that the other species will also develop the tolerance at that level or that easily. It might be even the species, the immune system of that particular species might be more powerful, so that's why they will cause tolerance at different levels. Understood? So it will vary from species to species. Then immunological competency of the host, it also affects induction of tolerance. If the degree, now if for example my immune system is strong, then induction of tolerance will be difficult. My immune system will be that strong that the infection or the virus when occurs, it will delete or eliminate the particular virus. So that's why tolerance won't be happening, unresponsiveness will not happen, because immune system is strong. So if the degree of immunological competency of the host is high, then induction of tolerance is difficult. Naturally, if your immune system is strong, the antigen won't be able to invade your body and cause the infections. So tolerance is difficult, unresponsiveness is difficult. On the other hand, newborns and embryos are particularly susceptible for induction of tolerance, because the immune system is immature and not very competent. Now, like we adults will have a good immune system, mature immune system, the embryos and the newborns won't be having that mature or that well developed immune system in the body. So what will they do? They will be susceptible for the induction of tolerance. Their body will be unresponsive because the immune system is immature, so tolerance will be high, unresponsiveness will be high. So that's how the adults and the newborn and the embryos work in the immunological competency. Okay. Then antigen. Induction of tolerance also depends on the antigen. Its physical nature, dose, and its route of administration refers to the now physical nature of an antigen refers to the form of an antigen, that is aggregated form or the soluble form. So when given in aggregated form, it will give a different response. When given in the soluble form or the free form, it will give a different response. Now that will these two things will also depend what kind of tolerance it will cause, what kind of unresponsiveness it will cause. For example, human gamma globulin. Now human gamma globulin is nothing but our antibodies. These are our antibodies which are synthesized in the yolk sac and the fetal liver. So these are nothing but the antibodies. Human gamma globulins are the antibodies. When given in heat aggregated form, it is highly immunogenic in mice. Now what is immunogenic? Immunogenic is nothing but a substance which is capable of inducing a good immune response in the body. So that is immunogenic, which is capable of creating a good immune response in the body, that is known as immunogenic. And the substance which will cause the unresponsiveness of the immune system or cause the immune system to be weak, that will be known as tolerogenic. So these are the two terms, remember. But when given in deaggregated form, it becomes tolerogenic. Like I told you, heat aggregated form में अगर आप gamma globulin को दोगे, it will promote the immunity, it will cause a good immune response. बट वेन डीएग्रीगेटेड फॉर्म में जब आप दोगे तो वो अनरिस्पॉन्सिवनेस कॉज करेगा इम्यून सिस्टम के लिए, इट विल कॉज टॉलरेंस. remember this. So aggregated and the deaggregated form, the forms also play a very important role in the induction of tolerance. Then comes, this is probably due to the fact that the antigens in the aggregated form are easily phagocytosed by the macrophages. Now aggregated form में जब आप दोगे गामा ग्लोबुलिन, then the macrophages will easily phagocytose, easily engulf the antigen and will remove it. That's why it will be immunogenic, will promote immunity and then presented to antibody forming cells. On the other hand, soluble antigens or deaggregated antigens or free antigens escape phagocytization by the macrophages, therefore not so easily processed, hence they are tolerogenic. Now we talked about the aggregated form, now we'll see about the deaggregated form. That is when antigen given in deaggregated form or the free antigen है, it will easily escape the phagocytization, it will easily surpass the macrophages and it will therefore not be easily processed, hence they are tolerogenic. So macrophages won't be able to phagocytose it and it will escape the macrophages, that's why it will be tolerogenic. This was about the aggregated and the deaggregated form. Now comes the dose. The induction of tolerance is also dose dependent. Now how dose affects the induction of tolerance? It is observed that high doses of an antigen when introduced repeatedly tolerize the T cells, but a moderate dose of the same antigen is immunogenic. Now if we give it in high dose, if an antigen is given in high dose, what happens? It might deplete the cells, or the T cells might the storage of the T cells might get over. If too much of antigen is given or the antigen is given in high doses, the T cells might get depleted, or that will cause tolerance, that will cause the unresponsiveness of the immune system, because the immune cells are only gone, the T cells. Now but when given in moderate doses, now if you give the antigen in moderate doses, the T cells will be able to eliminate it, right? Now the T cells will be present and will play a important role because the antigen is given in moderate amount, कम amount में दिया है, तो इसकी कम डोज में दिया है, तो दैट्स वाई इट विल बी इम्यूनोजेनिक, इट विल प्रमोट द immunity. Dose dependent tolerance occurs by two ways, that is high zone tolerance and the low zone tolerance. High zone tolerance, it occurs when high doses of antigen are introduced. It may be because of depletion of specific clonal cells. Like I told you, it might cause depletion of the T cells. That's why the antigen will be in a win-win situation and it will cause tolerance to the body. Then the low zone tolerance occurs when sub-immunogenic dose of some thymus dependent antigen is repeatedly introduced. Now what is sub-immunogenic? Sub-immunogenic is nothing but the dose of antigen which is less in order to elicit a immune response. It is not up to that level that it will elicit an immune response. It is below the threshold level. So if it is below the threshold level, it won't be able to evoke an immune response. That is known as sub-immunogenic. Then route of administration. Then the route of administration, it also affects the induction of tolerance and it also affects the induction of tolerance. Antigen, when introduced intravenously, even at its highest concentration, can cause tolerance. Now, why will the antigen cause tolerance when it will be given intravenously? Because it will be very fast. It will travel very fast into the circulation and it will reach the cells very fast and it will also reach the spleen. So it has a very fast contact with other number of cells and also reaches the spleen very fast. So that's how the high concentration of antigen when given in intravenous form will cause a good amount of tolerance, will cause unresponsiveness. Okay, now then comes the age of host. As mentioned above, the immune system competence is related to the age of host. Therefore, embryo and newborns can develop tolerance easily. Now, like I told you, embryos and the newborns will have an immature immune system. That's why they will be more susceptible to tolerance. Okay, and they will develop tolerance very easily, the newborns and the embryos. Now tolerance to the fetus. Now this is a very classic and good example of tolerance, that is tolerance to fetus. Fetus is genetically different from the mother. Now fetus is also a kind of antigen that is coming into the body because it is not a part of the mother and it is not a and it is coming from outside the body. So fetus is genetically different, hence it can be considered as a type is as a kind of antigen only. But what happens, our body doesn't remove it, our body doesn't play a immune response role in the case of pregnant women. It does not remove the fetus, right? So that is how a mother develops tolerance for the fetus. Now we will see how it happens. Fetus is genetically different from the mother and thus it should evoke an immune response in the mother, but it generally never happens that the mother has evoked an immune response against her fetus. So that is a very classic example of tolerance. However, it usually never happens and it's considered to be the best example of immune tolerance. Various factors which prevent immunological response in a mother against its fetus are described as: first one is the placenta. Now placenta is nothing but an organ that develops at the time of pregnancy, which gives nutrients, which gives the proper amount of nutrition to the fetus, and it removes its waste material from the body. So that is a very important important role that is played by placenta in tolerance of the fetus. Now immediately after implantation, the trophoblastic cells lose their immunogenic capacity due to decrease in MHC antigen. This is first. There is formation of mucoprotein coating on the cell surface, and anti-MHC antibodies which are produced in the mother gets absorbed into the placenta and their entry into fetal circulation is prevented. Now what happened, MHC is nothing but MHC are major histocompatibility complex molecules that are present. MHC molecules are present on antigen presenting cells of our body. So these molecules are very important to detect the antigen and remove it from our body. So when these antibodies will be suppressed or will get absorbed into the placenta, the immune system will definitely suppress, the immune system of the mother will definitely suppress, and its entry will be, and if it's absorbed, its entry will be prevented. Its entry will be prevented in the fetal circulation. Placenta will prevent its entry because it will absorb the MHC antibodies into it, and it will not cause an immune response against the fetus. Thereby placenta acts as a shield against immunological response. It acts as a shield, okay, because it absorbs the antibodies of the mother which can act against the fetus. Then comes the alpha fetoprotein. Now, alpha fetoprotein, during embryonic development, alpha fetoprotein is produced which acts as a immunosuppressive agent. AFP acts as a immunosuppressive agent. Okay, alpha fetoprotein. Now then comes the progesterone. Progesterone is a hormone released at the time of pregnancy, at the time of menstrual cycle, which is responsible to prepare the uterus for pregnancy. Okay, so progesterone is the hormone responsible for preparing the uterus for pregnancy. It makes the uterine line very thick and prepares the uterus for pregnancy. Okay, it also releases at the time of menstrual cycles and at the time of pregnancy also. It also has immunosuppression effect. Then comes the fetal T cells, gets activated. Now fetal T cells are nothing but the T cells that are present in adults also, so those are also in fetus. It will be known as fetal T cells. Gets activated when fetus is exposed to mother T cells during placenta. Now fetal T cells will be activated when the fetus is exposed to the mother's T cell through placenta and suppress the mother's T cells. Now what will happen? Now fetal T cells will get activated जब fetus is exposed to the mother's T cells through the placenta, and through the placenta it will suppress the mother's T cell. अब वो T cells mother के T cells को suppress कर देंगे. That's how the mother's immune response is suppressed. Okay, so these are the four ways in which tolerance to fetus occurs. That is one, the placenta, then the alpha fetoprotein, progesterone, and the fetal T cells. Then comes the autoimmunity. Now autoimmunity is nothing but during fetal life, when many antigens are presented to immune system, they are recognized as self antigens, and antibodies and cytotoxic T cells are not produced. Now like I told you, during fetal life many antigens are, all the antigens are considered as self antigens, and they will be they and antibodies and cytotoxic T cells are not produced. So these are the self antigens which are considered in the fetal life as self, all the antigens which are considered as self antigens during the embryonic life or the fetal life will not produce immune response. Therefore tolerance to self antigens is produced. However, sometimes body starts producing antibodies or T cells against self antigen. However, sometimes body starts producing antibodies against self antigen, our own cells or tissue, leading to an autoimmune disease. Now what happens, sometimes not in all the cases, but sometimes our body will produce T cells. Like I told you, T cells and the antibodies will not be produced when in the fetal life, when all the antigens are considered as self antigens. But however, in some cases, even to the self antigens, antibody or the T cells will get activated and will act against it, leading to autoimmune disease. मतलब कि T cells बन के तुम्हारे खुद के ही own tissue and cells पे attack कर रहे हैं, that is autoimmune disease. Okay, that is self destruction. Okay, now therefore autoimmunity may be defined as immune response to self antigen. It may be defined as immune response to the self antigen, our own cells or our own tissues. Then comes the mechanism of autoimmunity, forbidden clones. Now, forbidden clones are forbidden means not allowed or banned. That's the simple meaning of the word forbidden. Now, we'll see in fetal life, lymphocytes are formed against antigens as well as self antigens but gets depleted. Now, in fetal life, there will be formation of lymphocytes, that are the T cells, uh, will be formed against the antigens as well as the self antigens, but will get depleted later, because they will be formed at the time of fetal life when the immune system is immature, so later on they will get depleted. The clones of these cells are called as forbidden clones because they are not allowed in the later life. फॉरबिडन क्लोन्स इसलिए बोलते हैं क्योंकि वो वाले जो टी सेल्स और लिम्फोसाइट्स बने हैं एट द टाइम ऑफ फीटल लाइफ, दे वोंट बी अलाउड इन द लेटर लाइफ. दैट्स वाई दोज आर नोन एज फॉरबिडन क्लोन्स एंड हेंस इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स डज नॉट अकर अगेंस्ट सेल्फ एंटीजन, क्योंकि वो जा चुके हैं बॉडी से, दे आर एलिमिनेटेड और फॉरबिडन. However, persistence of these clones, अगर वो रह गए बॉडी में, if they exist in the body, these clones or their development in later stages of life by some mutation leads to autoimmunity. If by chance these clones persist in your body, रह गए आपके बॉडी में, डिलीट नहीं हुए हैं, they can cause mutation and will attack your body's own cells only. Okay. So those are forbidden clones. Then comes the hidden antigens. Certain self antigens are present in the closed system and never get exposed to the immune system during fetal life. These are known as hidden antigens. Now there are certain self antigens. हमारे खुद के ही antigens होते हैं जो कि present होते हैं body में, but those are hidden and not coming into the contact of circulation or the blood. So that's why they are known as hidden or um, hidden antigen that are present in the closed system. For example, lens protein being enclosed by its capsule, which will not come in contact with the blood and will be not released in the circulation. That's why it is a hidden antigen will be present in a capsule that is a closed subsystem. Okay. When such antigen in later life somehow gets exposed to the immune system, for example accidental leak of protein during cataract surgery, which should not happen, but if there is a leak of this protein into the circulation, it will lead to immune response and damages the other eye also. Okay, so it will evoke a immune response against your own tissue, because पहले से पता नहीं था ना बॉडी को, क्योंकि वो पहले से सर्कुलेशन में था ही नहीं, तो एकदम से आ गया लेंस प्रोटीन सर्कुलेशन में, तो द बॉडी विल थिंक इट इज अ एंटीजन, इट विल अटैक इट एंड इट विल डैमेज द अदर आई ऑल्सो. Okay, then another example of hidden antigen is sperm antigen. Injury to testes leads to leakage of sperm protein. Now, sperm protein is also not present in the blood, or it is not present in the circulation. But injury to the testes will cause the sperm protein to leak, and there will be immune response against the own testes of the body. Okay. Then comes the neoantigen. Certain cells of the body undergo alterations due to exposure to irradiations, drugs, and sunlight, etc., and start producing immune response. Now, certain cells of the body undergo alterations. Now, एक तरह से उनका सेल स्ट्रक्चर ही बिगड़ जाएगा, डिस्टर्ब हो जाएगा, ऑल्टर हो जाएगा ड्यू टू सर्टन conditions when exposed to sunlight or drugs or irradiations, और वो सेल का alterations हो गए, उनके सेल का और जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो डिस्टर्ब होके वो खुद ही के बॉडी के लिए इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स इवोक कर देंगे. Now then comes the cross-reacting antigens. Although antibodies are highly specific for a particular antigen, but in some cases they cross-react with other cells or the body tissue. Now, now this is a very basic thing, that antibodies are highly specific for a particular antigen. Like one particular antibody will be specific for its particular antigen only. It won't be going and attacking every type of antigen. Okay, but in some cases it so happens that they cross react with other cells of our own body tissue. So this phenomena is known as molecular mimicry. Then comes Then comes these antigens are also known as cross-reacting antigens. For example, in rheumatic heart disease, the heart gets damaged by antibodies against streptococci. Now, the antibody should only attack the streptococci in rheumatic heart diseases, but it so happens that the antibodies also damages the heart valves and the heart. So that's why there also some amount of damage also occurs to the heart due to the antibodies, um, which should actually act against the streptococci, but it also goes and attacks the heart, and the heart gets damaged. Okay, so this was about the cross reacting antigens. Mutations. The body immune system becomes competent for self antigen by certain mutations. Now, uh, what happens, like I told you, if the cells which are in the fetal life, the immune cells in the fetal life won't be attacking any antigen, because every antigen is considered as self antigen. But due to some mutation, कुछ certain mutation हो गया है, genetic mutations हो गए वो cells में, तो फिर वो सेल्फ एंटीजन पे भी अटैक करेंगे. सो दैट विल ऑल्सो इवोक अ रिस्पॉन्स अगेंस्ट द सेल्फ एंटीजन. Now then comes the unbalanced activity of helper and suppressor T cells. It has been observed that optimum antibody response always depends upon the balance of activity of helper T cells and the suppressor T cells. Now it is very important, if somehow that activity of these cells is altered or disturbed, that is overactivity of helper T cells or underactivity of the suppressor T cells, that may result in autoimmunity. Now T cells जो हेल्पर टी सेल्स एंड सप्रेसर टी सेल्स बहुत बैलेंस में चलते हैं. दे हैव टू बी बैलेंसिंग इन ऑर्डर टू क्रिएट अ प्रॉपर इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स फॉर द बॉडी. बट समहाउ इफ दिस balance is disturbed, if the overactivity of helper T cells is there and the underactivity of the suppressor T cells is there, it will cause autoimmunity. So the balance is very important for the immune system to function properly and to function adequately in a good way. But if this balance is disturbed, the body may develop autoimmunity. And then comes the autoimmune diseases. So these are some autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune anemia. Now the anemia which are autoimmune, those are two types: hemolytic anemia and the pernicious anemia. Now hemolytic anemia, what happens in it? The body starts to develop antibodies against our own red blood cells. So that's why red blood cells will be destructing very fast, and our own antibodies will remove the red blood cells. Even it will remove the red blood cells more faster than they are formed. So the rate of destruction is more than the rate of formation in this case in hemolytic anemia. Then comes the pernicious anemia. Now the pernicious anemia is also an autoimmune disease. How? Because now pernicious anemia occurs due to deficiency of a vitamin known as vitamin B12. Now vitamin B12 is very important vitamin for the red blood cells to function properly and for the red blood cell production. So vitamin B12 is very necessary for the production and the good functioning of the red blood cells. Now this vitamin B12 needs a protein. For its absorption. Now this protein is nothing but the intrinsic factor which is required for vitamin B12 absorption in the body. Now what happens in pernicious anemia? Autoimmune, there are certain antibodies developed in the body which acts against the parietal cells of the stomach, which forms the intrinsic factor. अब जब पेराइटल सेल्स पे ये एक्ट करेंगे और एंटीबॉडीज, तो फिर इंट्रेंसिक फैक्टर नहीं बनेगा. इंट्रेंसिक फैक्टर नहीं बनेगा तो विटामिन B12 एब्जॉर्ब नहीं होगा. विटामिन B12 एब्जॉर्ब नहीं होगा तो प्रॉपरली रेड सेल्स बनेंगे नहीं, फंक्शन नहीं करेंगे. दैट विल ऑल्सो लीड टू डिक्रीज्ड अमाउंट ऑफ RBCs in the body, and that is also a autoimmune disease, pernicious anemia. Then thrombocytopenic purpura. What happens in this? Antibodies are formed against our own body platelets. So this is thrombocytopenic purpura, in which antibodies are formed against our own platelets only. So this will cause easy bruising, bleeding, all these things will happen. Now then the Graves disease. Now what happens in Graves disease, antibodies will be formed against our own thyroid cells. Now this will it will cause the thyroid cells to form more. Now more and more thyroid cells will be formed, so that will cause the enlargement of the thyroid, and that is hyperthyroidism. Now antibodies will cause more formation of the thyroid cells, and that will cause hyperthyroidism and Graves disease. Then comes the Hashimoto's disease. So these are the autoimmune diseases, basic autoimmune diseases. And now comes the immunodeficiency diseases, that is AIDS. Now, what are immunodeficiency diseases? Now, immunodeficiency diseases are nothing but the diseases which occurs when the immune system is hampered, or and it occurs in a individual or with having an immunocompromised it occurs in the individual who is immunocompromised. So this is immunodeficiency diseases occurs in people who have a hampered immune system, who has less immunity. The defect may lie in one or more of the following components of the immune system: lymphocytes, phagocytic cells, and the complement proteins. Lymphocytes, the T cells and the B cells. अगर इनमें डिफेक्ट है तो भी इम्यूनोडेफिशिएंसी डिसीज हो सकती है. फेगोसाइटिक सेल, दैट इज अ मैक्रोफेजेस, उसमें अगर प्रॉब्लम है तो भी इम्यूनोडेफिशिएंसी डिसीजेस हो सकते हैं. एंड द कॉम्प्लीमेंट प्रोटीन में अगर प्रॉब्लम है तो भी इम्यूनोडेफिशिएंसी डिसीजेस हो सकती है. Immunodeficiency diseases may be classified as primary and the secondary. Now comes the secondary. Now AIDS comes basically in the secondary immunodeficiency disease. Now acquired deficiencies of immunological response mechanisms can occur secondarily to number of diseases. Now secondary means only underlying cause. Now that is not the particular cause, but it is occurring due to some other number of diseases. It is occurring secondarily to number of diseases. So acquired deficiencies of immunological response mechanisms can occur secondarily to number of diseases. Secondary immunodeficiency is more common than the primary. AIDS is the most important secondary immunodeficiency disease. So secondary immunodeficiency disease occur secondarily to number of diseases. Remember this. It is not the primary disease. It will be secondary to some other underlying cause. Now comes the AIDS. AIDS, the full form is Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. AIDS, Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, is characterized by reduction in the number of helper T cells because of infection by human immunodeficiency virus. Now AIDS, HIV is the basic virus responsible to cause acquired immune deficiency virus syndrome. Okay, HIV causes AIDS. HIV क्या करता है, बॉडी के इम्यून सिस्टम को ही डैमेज कर देता है, उसकी वजह से इम्यून डेफिशिएंसी सिंड्रोम होता है. ओके, सो उसकी वजह से एड्स होता है, HIV की वजह से. एड्स वाज फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल डिटेक्टेड इन USA in 1981. दिस इज a MCQ that it was first detected in USA in 1981. HIV are of two types, HIV-1 and HIV-2. Now spread of disease. AIDS is a major worldwide life-threatening disease spreading rapidly. Daily about 8,500 people get infected with HIV. The high-risk groups include sex workers and drug addicts. Then comes the transmission. Now how are these transmitted? It has three basic routes for the transmission. The first one is the parenteral route, through the blood. Now how HIV will spread through blood. It can be through unscreened blood transfusion, tattooing, use of infected razors, syringes and needles. So unscreened blood transfusion, blood से ही फैल रहा है ये, that is known as parenteral route. So unscreened blood transfusion, अगर if consider one particular individual is HIV positive और उसको blood transfusion करना है और उसने अपना blood test नहीं कराया है, unscreened blood transfusion हो जाएगा and the blood will be transferred to the donor to the recipient, and that will cause the transmission of the virus. Then tattooing. Then comes the use of infected razors, syringes and needles. Now it is very important to sterilize the razors, syringes and needles because it might be infected. अगर एक इंसान के लिए यूज़ किया हुआ है razor syringes, you have to sterilize it before using for another one because it can be infected with HIV virus. Okay, so sterilization is very important, and it is also important to use the disposable needle and syringes, one time use only for one person. Then comes the organ transplants. It can also spread the HIV through parenteral route. Sexual route accounts for about 85% of HIV infection due to multiple sex partners, sex workers. The virus is present in sufficient concentration in the semen and vaginal secretions of the infected person. Since the virus is present in very sufficient concentrations in the semen and vaginal secretions of the infected person, it is very easy for HIV it is very easy to uh, it is very easy for the HIV virus to transmit through sexually when having multiple sex partners. Okay, and it is 85%. This particular route, the sexual route, accounts for 85% of HIV infection. मतलब सबसे ज़्यादा maximum 3/4 of the infection जिस route से जाता है, that is the sexual route. Then comes the transplacental route. Infection can be transmitted from mother to fetus. Now that is known as vertical transmission, that is from the placenta. Placenta के through mother से fetus में गया है, that is known as transplacental route, or from the breast milk to the infant, from the mother through the breast milk to the infant, that is perinatal transmission. Okay, so these are the two transmissions through which HIV can be transferred, from the placenta to the fetus and from the breast milk to the infant through perinatal transmission. Then comes the structure of HIV. HIV is a retrovirus. Now what is a retrovirus? Retrovirus is nothing but these viruses will have RNA in it instead of GNA, and with the help of RNA they will later on form DNA in the host cell. बॉडी के अंदर आने के बाद, वो होस्ट सेल के अंदर जाने के बाद RNA की हेल्प से खुद के डीएनए बनाते हैं. सो दैट आर नोन एज रेटेरोवायरस. नाउ इट हैज़, I'll tell you the structure of HIV. The core. Now the core has two single strands of genomic RNA, enzyme reverse transcriptase, protein P15 associated with genomic RNA. Now I will show you the diagram of HIV-C. As you can see here, look at the cursor. Now this is the RNA. As you can see, the blue strand is the RNA. Okay, this is the RNA, and this is the reverse transcriptase enzyme. It is reverse. Okay, it is written reverse over here, and the down one is the transcriptase, reverse transcriptase enzyme, and the whole, and also it contains many proteins and enzymes. So these are the basic contents, you can say the important contents of HIV, which are stored in a envelope. This yellow envelope, as you can see here, this is known as the capsid. So all the important RNA, enzymes and the proteins are stored in the capsid. Now as you can see, these are the glycoproteins. As you can see, the spike like structures in the outer envelope, outer layer of the HIV, these are spikes which contains glycoprotein. Now there are two type of glycoprotein present in HIV structure. So these are the glycoprotein present at the spike. Okay, then comes the okay, now the core, like I told you, it has two single strands of the genomic RNA. The core, that means the capsid only, enzyme reverse transcriptase, protein P15 associated with genomic RNA. So protein, enzyme and RNA are stored in capsid. Okay, now genomic RNA is surrounded by two coverings. Inner coverings is cone shaped, consisting of P24, and outer covering is of P17. Now just a second. as you can see here, this is the glycoprotein 120 present here, and this is the glycoprotein 41 present. So these are the two glycoproteins present in the spike of the HIV virus. Okay, then comes the inner covering is cone shaped, consisting of P24, that is, and the outer covering consists of P17. Now these are the two coverings of the HIV. Okay, the inner covering and the outer covering. Then comes the genome. It has two types of genes, overlapping and split genes, 8 in HIV1 and 9 in HIV2. Virus is surrounded by host-derived envelope with spikes containing protein components complementary to CD4 or T4 receptors present on the surface of helper T cells, monocytes, macrophages, and some other nerve cells. Now like I told you, the virus is surrounded by a envelope of spikes. Like you see here, these are the spikes which are complementary to CD4 cells, macrophages, or other nerve cells. That means it is along with that. It has also taken their receptors or their covering along with it. So outer envelope of the HIV virus is complementary to CD4 or T4 receptors present on the surface of helper T cells. Okay, CD4 और T4 के सेल सरफेस पर रिसेप्टर्स रहेंगे उनके, इट विल बी द HIV virus envelope will be complementary with it. Okay, then comes the this is the structure. Then comes, I will tell you about the virus multiplication. Now this big cell is the CD4 cell. Okay, so this big white cell is the CD4 cells. It has its receptor, that is, you can see here in a U shape one. It is CD4 receptor. It will have the receptor, its own receptor. Now this is the HIV molecule. ठीक है, this the one HIV molecule will attach, its spike will attach to the CD4 receptor. Now like I told you in the previous slide, the spike will be complementary with the CD4 receptor. It will be complementary with it. It will be attached with it. It will come and attach here, and through it what will happen, we'll see here. When virus comes in contact with the cell having receptors for T4 antigen, like I told you, it will come and the spike will get attached to the receptor. Okay, the spike of the HIV protein will come and get attached to the CD4 receptors. Okay, it sticks to the receptor site. It will bind adherently and firmly with the receptor. बहुत strong वो bond बना लेगा ऐसे आके. It is the receptor and it is the spike. It will form a strong bond and it will pass inside the CD4 cell. Now the HIV has gained entry in the cell. Then the free genomic RNA synthesizes a copy DNA with the help of enzyme reverse transcriptase. अब क्या होगा, अब वो आ चुका है अंदर, HIV वायरस आ चुका है अंदर. अब क्या होगा, फ्री जीनोमिक RNA जो है वो जैसे कि लाइक आई टोल्ड यू, रेट्रो वायरस विद द हेल्प ऑफ RNA फॉर्म्स DNA. इट विल विद द हेल्प ऑफ RNA synthesize a DNA copy with the help of reverse transcriptase enzyme. Now as you can see here, this is the HIV RNA. Clear? As you can see, this is the HIV RNA जो कि HIV का खुद का RNA है. This is the reverse transcriptase enzyme. Now the reverse transcriptase enzyme uses HIV RNA with the help of a reverse transcriptase will create HIV DNA. This orange one is the HIV DNA created by the HIV RNA through reverse transcriptase enzyme. Remember, okay, so this is how RNA will create the HIV DNA with the help of reverse transcriptase enzyme. Okay, a copy of DNA forms complement strand and duplex attaches. अब क्या होगा, आरएनए ने डीएनए बना दिया है, ठीक है, आरएनए ने उसका एचआईवी डीएनए बना दिया है. अब उसकी जो कॉम्प्लीमेंट स्ट्रैंड एग्जैक्टली द डुप्लेक्स स्ट्रैंड, द डुप्लीकेट मिरर स्ट्रैंड जो होती है होस्ट सेल के डीएनए से, वो वैसी स्ट्रैंड बनाएंगे। ठीक है, अब वो डीएनए की एग्जैक्टली आइडेंटिकल स्ट्रैंड होगी होस्ट सेल के डीएनए के स्ट्रैंड से, सो दैट विल गेट अटैच्ड विद द होस्ट डीएनए। अब क्या होगा कि इसमें एज यू कैन सी, हाँ, एच आई वी डीएनए ये दिख रहा है यहाँ पे, एच आई वी डीएनए, इसकी स्ट्रैंड एग्जैक्टली सिमिलर होगी होस्ट सेल के डीएनए के स्ट्रैंड से। नाउ दिस एच आई वी डीएनए विल गो हियर एंड विल बाइंड विथ एंड अटैच इटसेल्फ विद द होस्ट डीएनए। ओके, विद द हेल्प ऑफ दिस एंजाइम इंटीग्रेस एंजाइम की हेल्प से एच आई वी डीएनए विल कम एंड अटैच इटसेल्फ टू द होस्ट डीएनए, देन यूजेस host DNA, then uses integrase to insert itself into host DNA. Now इंटीग्रेज एंजाइम क्या करेगा, वो उस वायरस का डीएनए होस्ट के डीएनए के साथ मैच कर देगा, अटैच कर देगा। ओके, सो दैट इज हाउ इट फॉर्म्स। देन हाँ, as you can see, the copy of DNA forms complement strand and duplex attaches to the host DNA in the form of proviral DNA. Now the जो DNA new जो बना है mRNA की help से, it is known as the proviral DNA. The HIV DNA जो बना है it will be known as proviral DNA. Then the proviral DNA may multiply with the host cell. अब वो multiply करेगा, अब वो DNA multiply करेगा host cell में and ultimately forms genomic RNA and messenger RNA. फाइनली जीनोमिक आरएनए और मैसेंजर आरएनए बनेंगे। देन द मैसेंजर आरएनए सिंथेसाइजेस वायरल प्रोटीन्स। अब मैसेंजर आरएनए का क्या काम रहेगा, बहुत सारे प्रोटीन्स बनाना, विच विल बी नीडेड फॉर फर्दर मोर messenger RNA will be needed to synthesize viral proteins which will be further required to make more copies of HIV virus. Okay, the messenger RNA and the viral proteins, अब जो ये messenger RNA ने जो viral proteins बनाए हैं, now these will be packed to form a virion. ओके, अब एक स्ट्रक्चर बन गया है विरियन विच हैज़ मैसेंजर आरएनए एंड द वायरल प्रोटीन्स। अब ये एक पैक बन जाएगा, इट विल पैक्ड टू बी फॉर्म एज विरियन, द स्ट्रक्चर विल बी नोन एज विरियन एंड दिस बर्ड्स ऑफ फ्रॉम द होस्ट सेल। अब ये डिटैच हो जाएगा होस्ट सेल से एंड गेट कवर्ड बाय एन एनवलप एंड अटैक अ न्यू होस्ट सेल। अब मैसेंजर आरएनए और विरियन viral proteins will, now this will also have messenger RNA, it will also have viral proteins, this structure will be known as virion, और फिर वो finally this structure will be detached from the host cell and it will form envelope and it will attack a new host cell. The infected cell ultimately gets killed, leading to reduction in number of cells belonging to immune system. अब जो सेल को उसने इन्फेक्ट किया है, HIV जिस सेल के अंदर आया था, द CD4 सेल, द पर्टिकुलर CD4 सेल, अब वो कोई काम की नहीं होगी, अब वो इन्फेक्ट हो जाएगी एंड इट विल गेट किल्ड and this will cause the reduction in the CD4 cells or the immune cells of the body. ऐसे करके HIV वायरस सारे सेल्स को डिस्ट्रॉय कर देता है, इम्यून सेल्स को बॉडी के, लीडिंग टू हैम्पर्ड इम्यून सिस्टम एंड लीडिंग टू अक्वायर्ड इम्यूनोडेफिशिएंसी सिंड्रोम। ओके, now as I told you these steps, yeah, okay, then comes the incubation period. Now the incubation period varies from 2 to 10 years. Incubation period is nothing but the period when the antigen has invaded your body up to the time till your body shows sign and symptoms. So the period between that is known as the incubation period. जब आपके बॉडी में एंटीजन आया है तब से लेके साइन एंड सिम्टम्स दिखने तक का टाइम इज नोन एज incubation period. The first 2 to 6 months are called as window period because in this period tests are negative because it is incubation period. कोई भी वहाँ पे कोई भी साइन नहीं दिखेंगे आपको कि टेस्ट पॉजिटिव आए. The virus is very latent in this period. This then onwards HIV positivity is indicated by presence of P24. P24 is component of HIV virus. Like I told you, antiviral antibodies will be seen, reduction in number of T cells, which is a classic sign of a reduction of AIDS. Then sign and symptoms are mostly of opportunistic infections due to decreased immunity. Now in the AIDS will lead the body to have a weak immune system, and due to the weak immune system, the body will be susceptible to various infections, opportunistic infections, and tuberculosis, and many more fatal diseases out in the world, which are always ready to attack your body and immune system. Okay, so जब body का immune system ही hamper हो जाएगा तो फिर सारी diseases के लिए the particular individual will be susceptible. So the sign and symptoms, basic sign and symptoms include repeated episodes of diarrhea, unexplained weight loss, prolonged cough. TB is the main cause of death in the patient of AIDS. It is a very common cause of death in the patient because the patient's immune system is hampered and it will be susceptible for Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, candidiasis of mouth and esophagus and ulcers. So these are the common sign and symptoms of AIDS. Then comes the HIV test. So these are the tests, screening tests. Now what are screening tests? Screening tests are nothing but tests which test which through which we see the antibodies, antigen, or the protein amount in the body. So we screening tests are nothing but to detect the antigen, antibodies, or various type of proteins, glycoproteins in the body. So जो टेस्ट के थ्रू हम ये सब डिटेक्ट करते हैं उनको हम स्क्रीनिंग टेस्ट बोलेंगे. वन सच टेस्ट इज ELISA. Now ELISA is a test for screening antibodies present in the blood against the HIV. अगर प्रेजेंट रही तो इट इज़ पॉजिटिव, नहीं रही तो इट इज़ नेगेटिव. Now ELISA or the screening test are highly sensitive test. Now what are highly sensitive test? मतलब कि इसके फॉल्स नेगेटिव आने के चांसेस एकदम नील रहते हैं. मतलब ऑलमोस्ट टाइम जब भी पेशेंट मतलब पॉजिटिव आया है, द टेस्ट पॉजिटिव आया है, वो पॉजिटिव ही रहेगा. फॉल्स नेगेटिव रिजल्ट्स बहुत कम आते हैं. That is known as highly sensitive test. Now supplement test, that is Western blot assay. Now Western blot assay में क्या होता है? In this test you will check for the proteins. You will check for the proteins of the HIV virus. You will मतलब तुम ब्लड को अलग कर दोगे and you will detect the protein of the HIV virus. So that is Western blot assay. Confirmatory test includes virus isolation. मतलब कि ये confirm ही कर देंगे. Like these will be confirmatory test and further this you won't be needed any test. So these are known as confirmatory test. Include virus isolation, detection of P24 antigen, detection of viral nuclei, acid polymerase chain reaction. So these are some confirmatory tests. Treatment. Triple drug treatment is employed, which includes protease inhibitors, reverse transcriptase inhibitor, azithromycin, interleukins added to make treatment more effective. So just remember the names. 2 to 3 names are also more than enough to remember in the treatment part. So then, okay, so hereby I conclude the lecture. Thank you.